Hey everyone, welcome to the Pawareness podcast, and thanks for joining me. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, and also check us out at pawareness.org and on Instagram at pawareness_official. On Instagram, we are doing submissions for Pet of the Week, where you can submit your foster pet, and we'll pick one winner every month, and we'll give $200 to their choice of charity or foster. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of the Pawareness podcast. Today we have Tracy Lystra from Saving Huey Foundation, and I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and then as well as the foundation and what it is that you guys do.
Okay, well, my name is Tracy Lystra. I founded Saving Huey Foundation. We began in 2014 and achieved our nonprofit status in February of 2015. We originally started by doing special needs rescue, taking animals that other rescues maybe, couldn't afford or just, didn't want to deal with, lots of paralyzed cases. And over the years, we've transitioned into more of a specializing in abused and neglected cases.
So, how did the founding start? I know you said 2014, but have you always been passionate about animals? How did that come to be?
I have always done rescue. I grew up in a family that rescued, so it was not unusual for me. As I got older, I would, take in orphaned animals, just always trying to do something, to help the animals, try to get, spayed, neutered for people. And eventually I was contacted about a dog named Huey, who had been used as a bait dog in dog fighting. And it just seemed like everything kind of snowballed from there, basically. It kind of set me on a course of wanting to work, not just in rescue, but to work, someone who could specialize in helping these animals that we're going to need long-term rehabilitation and medical. And that's, I was amazed at how many people followed his story and how many people actually were willing to help an animal that was needed a lot of medical care. And so I thought, I want to start my own rescue and my own nonprofit, and I want to help the underdog.
That's so amazing. And I guess something I'm not as familiar with when it comes to animals with special needs, right? And so what does that look like? Where are you? I guess my first question is where are you even finding these animals? Are they birth defects? Are they abused? Is it I know before the call you mentioned you're in California. Is it in-state? Are you shipping out of state? What does that look like?
Anymore, it comes from just about anywhere, the animals. Originally, it was our local shelters, people who maybe were breeding dogs or cats and had, a deformed litter, or one, that was deformed. It was, started small and just helping, there's a lot of dogs that are put in the shelter once they've been hit by a car, and they're paralyzed, and their chances of being adopted are very slim. And I began to see just how many there were, a lot that aren't even put on the adoption floor. And I thought, hey, they deserve a chance. And so we kind of started there, pulling from shelters, helping people. People started, I guess, getting familiar with my name, and they would contact me. I started working a lot in Tijuana, Mexico. We've helped in El Salvador. We help anywhere that we can. That doesn't always mean that the dog or animal comes to us, but, we'll help with finances or whatnot. Most of our cases, I've got 4 paralyzed cases right now. I've got cases who are missing a limb or 2. I've got cases who are blind, who have one eye, who have neurological issues, pretty much anything that doesn't fit in that nice little square box that people have, created of the ideal animal.
And what is the animals that you're seeing, right? Are you doing that yourself, or have you forged relationships with with vets? How does that work? 'Cause like you said, it's definitely probably not cheap.
No, it's not cheap. And over the years, I've been able to acquire what I feel is the best of the best in my area. I have a vet hospital that I use for non-emergent cases. And then I have a vet that I use, a hospital for my emergency cases. And, the last numerous years, we've spent over $100,000 in medical alone, because our cases are so severe. But, I try not to ever say no, especially if it's a life or death situation. I do not use fosters because of usually there's a lot of follow-up. There's a lot of, daily appointments. And it's really not fair of me to expect someone to be able to be at the vet every day.
That was kind of my next question was, right. It was like, okay, so you don't use fosters, but in terms of if someone wants to adopt an animal and, take on that responsibility, I guess this is a very broad question because you deal with so many cases, but what are some of the logistics in terms of having an animal like this, right? Like, what does that look like? Do you have like particular type of person that, like probably someone that works from home, maybe? I don't know. What is that like for you?
Yeah, my adoption process is very strict. It's very tough. And I get a lot of negative feedback and then I get a lot of positive feedback. I don't have applications. You basically are invited to email me with your adoption interest, and then we meet. So that does exclude a lot of people that are not in Southern California, although I've had multiple people fly out to adopt an animal. And, that's just shows me how committed they are to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it has to be the right match for the right animal. So I wouldn't say that there's necessarily somebody that I'm looking for, it just depends on that animal's needs. Is it somebody that can be home? Is it somebody who maybe doesn't have kids? Is it somebody who, some of my animals have been abused by a certain sex. So maybe is this person single? Or, it's just really important that I find the perfect match for that perfect animal. And
I think
a long process.
I think that's great. Like, I think especially, you probably get to build a relationship with these animals. And so it's like, you're just making sure that it's in their best interest. And obviously the people that are really want the animals, they'll understand that. Like you said, they'll fly out or do whatever it takes.
Exactly. And it's a 3-step process. I require that they meet the animal 3 times. These are my babies. And the last thing I want to do is have them wake up in my home and go to bed in another home and never see them again. It's got to be a slow process where they get to meet the person, for a couple hours, and they come back to me and then they meet the person again. And so yeah, it's interesting, and it's very different than a lot of rescues, but these are, they're not just rescue animals to me, they're family members.
Oh, that's so great. Because I can't tell you how many rescues I've talked to, and they're just like, oh, this animal came in, it doesn't fit their bubble, and so they can't do anything with it. And it's heartbreaking to hear. So obviously when there's someone like you doing what you're doing, it's phenomenal. Now, how big's your team? Like, how many animals do you have at once? Like, these are the questions that I have.
So I tend to not answer that question. Simply because every time I do, animal control shows up at my door.
So whatever the right number is.
I have exactly what the right number is.
Perfect.
Just like every other rescue.
Yep, exactly.
When we did relocate to where we are now, we were able to buy 3 acres, which in Southern California,
nice.
Is considered large. And so it did allow me the opportunity to have more animals instead of in my old track home where I was constantly trying to shush everybody and, keep it on the down low. So yeah, we've got a nice setup, and, we've got goats, pigs, rabbits, dogs, cats, you name it. We have, we try to help anything that we can. And as far as my team goes, my team is my husband and I.
That's amazing.
It's just, and a lot of people, will say, oh, your team's amazing. And I'm like, well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
But, it's just us, I like to keep it small. I don't want to be a huge, it seems like the bigger Saving Huey Foundation gets, the more pressure I have as far as helping more and more animals. And, as one person, it gets really depressing not to be able to help them all. But again, I want every single case that comes through our gates to receive the absolute best care possible. And if I get overwhelmed, then I start missing things, and I just can't have that.
Yeah. And I think that's especially like when you're running something like that, it's really important to like it sounds like you're self-aware of that, where it's like, okay, I know what I want. I don't want to get, too many people, because then maybe it becomes like managing people rather than working with the animals, which is like, sounds like to you is the most fulfilling part. So at the end of the day, it's like the essence of everything is just like a few people can make a massive difference. And like, look what you and your husband are doing. So
Yeah, we do our best, and I've just been blessed with a lot of people who have shown a lot of interest in what I do, and they help spread the word, and yeah, I like to say that just my husband and I run it, but in reality, Saving the Huey Foundation is all of our followers, our donors, our supporters, because without them, we wouldn't be, but a husband and wife trying to save one animal at a time.
that's so great. Like, exactly how many or what kind of animals are you working with? I know obviously, like, yeah, you mentioned kind of a wide variety, right? How many of those are you working with?
Well, we've got, like I said, goats, pigs, rabbits, dogs, cats. I do orphan mice, orphan rats. Really, it just depends. I think I'm Saving Huey Foundation is primarily known for working with dogs. I get a lot of high profile abuse cases. But, at any given time, I'm working with special needs, cats as well. I've got a little paralyzed kitten that we took in, and we're trying to see what we can do as far as therapy, to try to get those back legs working. There's, sick pigs, sick goats, limping animals, just trying to, help just about anything that we possibly can. And there's definitely a learning curve, because when we moved up here, I was city folk, and now I am out in the middle of the country, and I'm trying to work with goats and pigs. And, so again, I don't want to take on an animal that I don't have, the education to properly care for. So I'm kind of learning as I go. And eventually I'd like to be able to take in retired donkeys from carnivals, from sideshow attractions. I don't know what it is with me and donkeys, but I really want to help a donkey.
You're like, this will happen. I will make this happen.
Totally.
I know that you doing everything you can, but let's say, let's say someone's listening in Michigan, right? And they come across an animal that's disabled. What would be your advice to the best of your ability? What should they do with that animal that's disabled? Should you just take it in somewhere, or what's the thing there?
Sorry. First and foremost, I think it's important, if you find anything, any animal, that you take it to your local shelter or humane society. A lot of places find animals, a lot of people find animals and they think, oh, it's mine, or they give it to somebody else. And clearly that's in violation of the laws. We have to take the lost animal into the shelter. That's what shelters were set up for. So if you have a special needs animal and you take it into the shelter, depending on the level of special needs it has, there is a chance that that dog will never, or that animal will never be showcased as adoptable. The shelter does have to hold them for a mandated amount of days, and that varies depending on what county you're in. And after that, they're eligible to be euthanized legally. And for me, when people reach out and say, hey, I found, this dog, it's injured, or it's, only got 3 legs, what can I do? I tell them, take them to the shelter, and then let the shelter know, hey, if this dog doesn't get adopted, or after, the legal holding period, if nobody's come for this dog, I would like to either, foster the dog, and in the process of fostering, trying to find a rescue, trying to find a home maybe, but kind of take it from there. Don't, if it's possible, and I understand that it's not possible for everyone to take in a special needs animal. Not everybody wants to spend their day changing diapers. I do. But I just ask, and I do this a lot on my social media sites with people who contact me negatively and say, why wouldn't you just put that animal down? Or, and I said, well, gosh, let's consider if this was a family member of yours, who was set on fire, or who needed to wear a diaper, or this or that. Would you have the same mindset as to, basically that life doesn't matter, because that life is going to take a little bit of extra care. And of course, then it's suddenly, no, but, we don't have an overcrowding of humans like we do animals. And then I just politely ask them to refer to, other parts of the country where, in fact, we have we have more humans than we need. There's every bit as overcrowding with humans as there is with animals. So basically, I believe that every life deserves a second chance. That's just my motto. That's where I come from. And if you can't provide that second chance, then just please reach out to your local, rescues, while that dog is even in the shelter, and just don't give up. Kind of follow through if at all possible. And I know a lot of shelters do a great job. They've got, rescue coordinators who reach out to rescues to try to home that, certain types of animals that do come in. I guess that would just be my advice. Just follow.
No, I think that's great. And it can be, like you said, sometimes you just don't know what to ask. And so it's like, maybe the person bringing that in never knew, oh, maybe they didn't even know about those rules or laws or whatever. Mm-hmm. So now, hopefully now they do. And so are there other organizations like yours that specialize like this? Or because I just haven't talked to anyone that does this.
Sure. I'm sure there are. There's not enough. Right, I can tell you that. I mean, there are days where, I'm just like, please, someone else join me. I'm sure there's, numerous organizations set up. I just gathered that, like me, they're probably completely overwhelmed. At any given time, I've got a waiting list, of special needs dogs. And unfortunately, I have to do a life or death basis. So maybe I've had a dog, that's paralyzed, it's been waiting for 6 months. If I get the call that I've got a dog who, like my little guy that was set on fire, he automatically has to come to the front of the line. I have to work on that life or death basis. So, it'd be great if more people would consider, doing special needs. It's a long turnaround. It's a long turnaround process, and you're not going to get out of an adoption fee what you put into it. That's for sure. But to me, it's absolutely rewarding.
Yeah. And that's okay. So, to the devil's advocate who wants to just be like, well, why don't you just put them down or whatever? They probably just haven't seen what you've seen, right? Like the comeback. So for you, what's a story where you, or like that rewarding experience where you saw an animal that you took in and, now it's like living that better life, right? Like you probably have seen it like over the last year even.
Yeah. So many. I mean, there's just so many. I mean, I literally will take dogs and, people say, what are you doing? I've had dogs who have been, dragged behind vehicles, that we have on tape. I've had dogs that have been tied to a post and strangled. I've had dogs who have been set on fire. I had a dog who had firecrackers put in his mouth. His name is Braveheart. He was an exceptional case. When I first saw his pictures, it was my recommendation that he be put down. It was just so brutal and so graphic. He was only 6 months old, and it just decimated his jaw, his snout, just about the entirety of his face. And I actually found a surgeon who said I can help him. And I said, I'll give you one shot, because I honestly didn't think it would be possible. But the surgeon just did amazing things. Braveheart has a prosthetic jaw. He doesn't have a nose, but he is able to, he runs and plays, he breathes through his mouth. And people, again, will say, oh my gosh, he doesn't have a nose and he has to breathe through his mouth. And I'll tell people, yeah, kind of like you do when you have a cold. It's the same exact thing. It's not a death sentence. I always think that some of us are lucky enough to be made special. So that's kind of my motto with these babies. And I try to look past the visible and, look into what's inside. So,
yeah. And I think it takes a really strong person to do that and that's kind of what I want to okay. So let's say someone wants to dive down and maybe start one their own across the country or something and do this. What is some advice that you have? Like how do you stay, I don't know if sane is the right word, but basically where you're just not going overload with, because you probably see a lot of sad stuff is what I'm getting at. So what do you do to, obviously you see some good too, but how do you get through that?
Vodka. Lots of vodka. It's pretty much, it's all sad. And I'm jealous a lot of times of other rescues. I really am. I have a lot of friends, a lot of wonderful people that, work in rescue, and I see the little puppies that they bring in, and I see, the healthy little animals. And I get jealous. I do, because I don't get to see those pictures. I somehow ended up on the other side, seeing just horrible mangled pictures. And, it's hard. And there's times where, sleeping is very difficult. I go to bed and the things that I've seen during the day, I only have so much space. And so I have to say no a lot. And by saying no, I know that there's a good chance that animal's not going to wake up the next day, that it was, critical. And so there's a lot of guilt involved as well. There's a lot of, you can't save them all. And, growing up, I always thought that motto, that saying was garbage. I always thought, yes, you can, and I'm going to. And I guess having to realize the fact that you can't it's painful. It's definitely a demon of mine, but I just try to stay focused and on the cases that I have and the remarkable recoveries that they've made and the happy lives that they're living now.
I think that's the best advice. And it is, even just getting into this from my own, which is such a small sliver of what you go through, of just like doing these podcasts and talking with people like you and hearing these cases, for me has just been a very expanding, like almost like this way, I can't even imagine to that degree. So yeah, no, Ed, thank you for sharing that with me. And I'm sure, someone who wants to do that was wondering that too. So to kind of wrap things up here, if someone wants to get in touch with you, I know you have a waiting list for animals, but maybe just like, I don't know, like donations or whatever it is, how do they find you? Where are you guys located at?
Well, we have our social media pages. We're on Facebook at Saving Huey Foundation. We're on Instagram at Saving Huey. Twitter at Saving Huey, our website. They can reach out via our website, savinghueyfoundation.org, and they can always email me at savinghuey@gmail.com. That's usually the quickest way. I spend a lot of time on my laptop and on my phone answering messages. And, even if I can't do hands-on rescue, I do my best to try to guide people, with potential, ideas of where maybe they can get help for their animal.
And whatever medium you're listening on right now, all of that will be in the description below for you to click on, and you guys can reach out to Tracy. But Tracy, I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for coming on. I learned a lot. Definitely look forward to checking you guys out more and seeing your guys' journey over the course of 2021. But thank you so much. And it was a pleasure talking with you and having you on.
Thank you. I appreciate it.